love. Vision shoot below as a bird. Left there in a talking world. Left there in a talking world.
Okay, thank you so much for joining me for our fourth presentation on natural law. And we'll be talking about karma. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you all see everything? Are you all able to see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the fourth presentation, like I said, on natural law. And I highly recommend that you visit the website, affirmlifedaily.com, as well, for lots of information regarding natural law. There's affirmations, there's tons of resources and videos as well on the site. But today we're focusing on the karmic consequences of not following natural law. I'll be answering the following questions. What is karma? How does karma operate in the universe? How is our manifested reality and consciousness connected? How the controllers mitigate negative karma. So we'll go ahead and get started. So these are just the topics that I'll be covering, key aspects of natural law. There's 15 of them. So we are again on number 4. There are immutable karmic consequences to not following natural law. What is karma? Karma creates perfect balance in the universe. By definition, karma is destiny or fate following as an effect from cause. Karmas are attracted to the karmic field of a soul due to vibrations created by activities of mind, speech, and body, as well as various mental dispositions. Karma is, in a nutshell, moral law, kind of at its essence. The old saying, you reap what you sow, can really kind of sum up karma, because that is how the universe works. It is the basis for the real law of attraction, which is something I'll cover later in this series. What the real law of attraction is, it's not kind of the new age stuff that's kind of put out there is not really the real law of attraction, but that is something we'll cover later on. Okay, natural law transgressions, or in other words, immoral behavior or wrong behavior, results in a karmic debt, or what we often call bad or negative karma.
Cindy?
Yes.
The slides aren't, you have it on, like, it's not in presentation mode and the slides aren't advancing. It's still on the title slide. At least that's what I see.
Really?
Ari, what do you see?
I don't see any slides right now. Oh wait, never mind. I see the slide. I see the. Wait, did you just change the slide?
Yeah. So
natural law transgression.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you need a different view.
But this is the one I've been using, this view.
Yeah.
You see?
But yeah, it's not, for some reason it's not changing. It's staying in where you can see the slide deck on the side. Okay. And all. There we go. Oh, it was there. Now it's, yeah, this is the one.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So let me go back then. So this was the what is karma slide. So like I said, karma creates perfect balance in the universe, and it is the basis for the real law of attraction. It's, you reap what you sow. And so natural law transgressions, immoral behavior or wrong behavior results in a karmic debt, or what we often refer to as bad or negative karma. So what are natural law transgressions? Every harmful action that a human being is capable of taking is a form of theft. Some form of property is always being stolen when a wrongdoing is committed. So any type of wrong has to do with theft, because in its property theft. Life is a form of property. Your rights are a form of property, which just means they're yours. You own it. They're your rights. It's your life. Freedom, your freedom is a form of property. So those are all wrongdoings whenever you violate those type of property rights by theft, by stealing. Okay, so how does karma operate in the universe? Karma is part of the 8 basic principles of natural law. Karma is the principle of cause and effect. That's the way it operates based on that universal principle. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law, which they're just referring to the natural laws of the universe. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. So they're saying nothing happens by chance. Everything happens by one of the laws of the universe. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes law. And that is directly from the Kybalion. I do recommend, it's a really, a short read. I do recommend reading it to get familiar with the different Hermetic principles. So let's look further at some of these overreaching concepts. The principle of cause and effect. So what we care about and give our attention to is the driving force of our thoughts and actions. So the little arrow there is pointing to the Hermetic principles that I just mentioned. Now, there's only 7 here. I said 8 before because there is an additional principle that Mark Passio, a gentleman that I reference in all of these presentations, he's an expert on natural law, added an 8th principle, the principle of true care, which we'll talk about more in this presentation. And we also talked about in the last presentation. But these are the 7 natural law principles or Hermetic principles. The principle of mentalism, the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of polarity, the principle of rhythm, the principle of cause and effect, and the principle of gender. We're going to be talking only about the cause and effect today because we're talking about karma, but I will talk about all of the other principles in a future presentation. So what is the generative principle of care? Again, this was covered some in the last presentation, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. But basically, like I said, this is the lost principle of generative care as Mark Passio describes it. This generative principle of care, which is different from compassion or even love, is described with a capital C to distinguish it from care with a lowercase c. What you focus on and give attention to is ultimately what gets generated and grows. It's not about ignoring the negative, but being mindful of what you're feeding. That's a really important point because especially with a lot of new age stuff, oh, just ignore everything negative. Oh, don't take in anything negative. Just act like it's not there and just raise your vibration above it all. How do you change anything if you're ignoring what reality is, what's there? You don't ignore negative, but you don't feed it. You feed the solutions. You feed your knowledge, you feed your wisdom, you feed the positive, you feed the other polarity of that negative, but ignoring the negative won't get you anywhere. Care comes first. You've got to care enough to develop the knowledge necessary to understand what true care is. Then you've got to act on it and put it into practice. The world is the way it is because most people do not care enough to change it through their actions, despite saying they want things to be different. So everyone talks a great game, but very few people actually do anything. So I want to define a few of the terms that we'll be using a lot during this presentation. So consciousness defined. Again, I'm using his definition of consciousness. One could say that at its essence, consciousness is the ability of a being to recognize patterns and meaning with respect to events taking place both within oneself and in the external realm in which the self exists and operates. So we talked about this a little bit last time too, as far as people's inability to recognize patterns. If you are conscious, that's why they say a lot of people are asleep rather than awake. And we're not talking about actual slumber when you go to bed at night. We're talking about awake as far as recognizing what's going on around you. And if you don't have pattern recognition, there's no way you're going to really see what's going on, because that's one of the main ways you notice things is you keep seeing these patterns. You see patterns with things that the military does, things politicians do, things that corporations do, things that trends, societal trends, historical trends. You see patterns, you recognize them, and that's kind of what will tip you off. Okay, something's wrong. Why does this keep happening? We need to look into why, the deeper root causes. So consciousness has a lot to do with pattern recognition in yourself, your own personal patterns, especially your more destructive or negative ones. You're really taking a look at those and recognizing those. So it's your patterns within yourself and outside of yourself is what would you refer to as consciousness. Manifested reality. What is the definition of that? Our manifested reality is directly correlated to our level of consciousness. So manifesting means putting your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs into the physical reality. So manifested reality refers to what you bring into existence as a result of what you put out there. This idea implies that whatever you focus on is the thing that you are bringing into your existence. So you kind of see that theme over and over again. We are creating our reality. We are creating our existence. So the manifested reality is just what your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, actions are bringing into the physical reality. So how is our manifested reality and consciousness connected? And they are directly connected, as you can kind of already see. So I'm going to read this quote first before we get into the graphic. This is the great work, the great alchemical work, to help transition people out of the darkness and into light, out of ignorance and into knowledge, out of slavery and into freedom. This is what is the great work is. This is a great work that we all need to be doing, especially at this point in the condition that the world and our society is in. So we'll start at the bottom of this. So it starts with knowledge, so or lack thereof. So knowledge is just the available information. This constitutes all potential forms of data that may be gathered, processed, understood, and acted upon by individuals. So, and I'm not talking about, the indoctrinated school knowledge that you get, or the knowledge that you get, the propaganda that you get from mainstream media. I'm talking about real knowledge that you get, from books, from non-mainstream media sources, real documentaries, or Mark Passio, someone like that, who's done, tons of research. This is where you can gain knowledge. Look, you really have to do your homework and your research to gain proper knowledge where it's not propagandized or not, from the mainstream media, but it's super important to get this, because that's going to be your foundation for the manifestation of whatever reality you want to create. It's going to be based on the knowledge that you have. So once you have that knowledge, then you're going to take it to the next phase, which is decision making and understanding. So you take the understanding of that, you start making decisions with the knowledge that you gain. So processing of the available information, which takes place within the human mind and becomes the life choices of the individual. So once you have an understanding, and you start making decisions, and your decisions are your behavior, that becomes your behavior. So that's the wisdom step, because a lot of people think of wisdom just as, oh, you're wise because you have knowledge. Wisdom is when you take that knowledge and put it into action. That is wisdom. So each individual's behavior is based upon the quality of their decision-making processes, which in turn are based upon the quality of their available information. So you have to start with the right information, proper knowledge base, and then you can build up to that level of wisdom, and then you can go into your manifested reality from there based on your behavior. That's going to determine what type of results you get or the consequences. You're going to end up in freedom or slavery based on your behavior. So the quality of the condition which manifests in any society is based upon the aggregate quality of behavior within that society. So it's talking about as a collective, because as a society, we're in it together. So it does matter what other people are doing and how they're thinking and what knowledge they're acquiring. It matters a lot, because as a society, we're all dependent upon one another, and what some people do affects, the whole. Collectively, we are creating our manifested reality, which is what I was just saying. This is just a recent post I had put up. Individualism can only take you so far. As you become more conscious and awakened, you begin to see our interconnectedness as one, as a divine collective. You see the meaningless nature of gaining material riches as everyone around you suffers. You start to understand that it is spiritual riches that embody the deep intrinsic value you seek. Your mission becomes to unlock those riches buried within yourself, and then to help those around you to do the same. So again, it all comes back to knowledge and wisdom, taking what you know and using it to better yourself and better those around you, putting that knowledge into action. The earth does not have to be like this. It can change. Anytime we want to step out of the ego, give up our ways that are attached to theft, and stop supporting violence, stop supporting wrongdoing and wrongful action, which are all the various forms of theft, and learn one spiritual law of creation. I thought that was a really powerful quote. So fighting against the flow of the universe creates only chaos, darkness, and the absence of the love and peace that we say we truly want. It is only in harmony with the natural order of the universe can we live our true Christ consciousness and finally be free. How the controllers mitigate negative karma. That's something that comes up a lot in the conscious community. And those are people that are, on the path of awakening. They're doing all this evil stuff and wicked stuff. They should be destroyed they're self-destructed by now with all this negative karma they're creating. But they mitigate a large proportion of their negative karma. And these are three of the main ways that they are able to mitigate their negative karma. And now I'm not saying that they don't create negative karma for themselves, because they're absolutely doing terrible things, and they do, but they are able to mitigate a lot of it by using order followers to carry out the harmful actions, by manipulating the general population into harming themselves and living satanic lifestyles, fear mongering using false flag events, artificial scarcity, and divide and conquer strategies to encourage the population to imprison themselves and willingly give up their own freedom. So first, we're going to talk about order followers. What is an order follower? An order follower is a person who engages in actions and takes on belief systems without question. They do not reflect on the harm, immorality, violation of rights, or karmic consequences of what they do to others or to self. They simply do what they are told. They most often think of this behavior as virtuous, when in reality it is anything but. So examples of order followers are military, police, and government workers, but there are many others. Any person whose job or their core responsibilities at their job are a result of following orders without question, that's an order follower. It's real, clear cut. The karmic debt of order followers. The order follower always bears more moral culpability than the order giver, because the order follower is the one who actually performed the action, and in taking such action actually brought the resultant harm into physical manifestation. Order following is the pathway to every form of evil and chaos in our world. It should never be seen as a virtue by anyone who considers themselves a moral human being. Order followers have ultimately been personally responsible and morally culpable for every form of slavery and every single totalitarian regime that has ever existed upon the face of the earth. Another quote by Passio. And you have to think about that. That is true. The few people that are, pulling the strings and, manipulating everyone, most of them aren't, first of all, there's not even enough of them to carry out any of this without order followers. And most of them are old. It's not like they're these superhuman, super strong, where they can just, do these things without any help. They would not be able to do any of these things without order followers committing these acts for them. And so this is one of the main ways they are able to pull this off, and also at the same time mitigate their own negative karma or bad karma. The next way is fear mongering. Scared people will literally imprison themselves. Please save me, daddy government. So many people think of the government as their savior. Now, they also, and it's crazy because a lot of the same people also think of government as their oppressor and can see a lot of the controls and the corruption, but they still look to them to also save them at the same time, which you can see is completely illogical and doesn't make any sense. But that fear makes people behave and think totally illogically. So a lot of the ways that they use to scare people are false flag events, which are events committed with the intent of disguising the actual source of responsibility and pinning blame on another party. A prime example of this is 9/11. I'm not going to go into 9/11 because there's tons of information out there at this point where you can easily find out for yourself what really happened and the implausible nature of what they said happened and how it happened. It's completely implausible. It can easily be disproved with their story. So I will leave that to the individual to do that research if it's something that you still believe happened the way that the media said that it happened and that the government said that it happened. Artificial scarcity. This is artificially creating an environment of perceived deficit, leading people to think there are not enough resources for everyone to survive. So, for example, food shortages. You can see they've done so much to destroy food, crops, farms. They poison the rainwater. There's so many things they do to create food shortages. So that's artificial scarcity because it's not a natural occurrence. It's not Mother Nature creating the food shortage. It's not that we the people don't want to grow the food. They create the food shortage. The same thing now with housing. So many people can't buy a home, can't rent a home, and they're making being homeless illegal at the exact same time that they're pricing people out of even just having somewhere to live. These are artificial deficits, artificial scarcity. And then the famous divide and conquer strategy. This strategy is employed to create artificial divides and enemies in society. So there is an endless list of these divide and conquer strategies they employ. Political parties, genders, economic class, races, nationalities, religions. You can just go on and on with the divides that they create. Because when you have a society divided against each other, then you're never noticing what they're doing. You're never fighting them. You're dealing with symptoms, but you're never dealing with the root cause. The power of fear mongering. Fear creates a binding prison of the spirit and mind. But when you come to understand the true power and nature of your eternal essence, you become unapologetically free. So again, it's that fear. It binds you mentally, spiritually, physically, and you just can't think straight. You're making poor decisions. You have to get to the point where you understand your eternal nature, your spiritual nature. Once you really embrace that and know that your light can't be put out, you may change forms. You may not be in this particular body anymore, but you are eternal. That really helps people release a lot of the unnecessary fear that they're feeling, because what can you do to eternal light? What can you do to eternal energy? What can you do to eternal spirit, really? Okay, so now we're going to talk about the way they manipulate. So manipulating people into harming themselves and living satanic lifestyles. The psychopathic and sociopathic controllers constantly use the manipulative techniques of brainwashing, programming, and mind control, which we talked about in the last presentation at length. Now, these are some of the ways that they use those particular techniques that they use with those brainwashing, programming, and mind control. Solipsism and New Age spirituality, refusal of truth and knowledge and willful ignorance, moral relativism and selfish ego-driven behavior, materialism and consumerism. So they use these so that we destroy ourselves and our society by engaging in these activities. So they promote these constantly. Solipsism and New Age spirituality. Solipsism is a philosophical idea that only one's mind is sure to exist. Solipsism holds that knowledge of anything outside of one's own mind is unsure. The external world and other minds cannot be known and might not exist outside. There's an extra word in there. Outside your own mind. Truth cannot be known. So you can easily see how this would slide right into very immoral behavior and a lot of wrongdoing. Well, I can just say, you might not even exist. Who cares how I treat you? There's no real right and wrong because truth doesn't exist. Nothing ever can be known. Nothing can be known. So you can literally do anything and it's okay because nothing can be known. You might just be a figment of my imaginations. So I'll steal from you, beat you, rape you, kill you. Who cares? Because you're just a figment of my mind. So solipsism is a real psychopathic ideology. New Age spirituality often pushes solipsistic ideas within it. The packaging is very, very pretty when it comes to New Age spirituality, and it makes it seem righteous and moral. But at its essence, they are promoting Now, this is not always with all New Age spirituality, but it is often. They are promoting inaction, apathy, and selfishness in both action and thought. Much of New Age spirituality was actually created and propagated exclusively by the controllers for that purpose. Refusal of truth and knowledge and willful ignorance. Refusal of truth and knowledge are the cornerstone of why people are so easily controlled. In this day and age, most people in first world countries can relatively easily access information and gather knowledge, but many refuse to. Even when presented with irrefutable facts, or they can be witnessing it like point blank in front of them with their own eyes, they refuse truth. This is known also as cognitive dissonance. So they refuse truth whenever it disrupts their convenience, current belief system, or lifestyle. If you don't acknowledge or understand what is going on around you, how can you ever change it? Willful ignorance is dominant in today's society. It's not that people can't know, it's that they don't want to know. There's so many instances I can think of where I presented just very, very provable hard facts to people, and they just said, they didn't say I was lying or that I was wrong. They said they didn't want to know. And that's frightening, but there's a lot of people like that. They just don't want to know. If they know, then they will have the moral obligation to act if they have the moral obligation to act if they still want to consider themselves a moral person. They don't want that responsibility. So if they don't know, then they don't have to behave moral, or they don't have to behave responsibly because they can claim ignorance, but it's willful ignorance. So that's still negative karma because you could have known and you didn't. Diving down the rabbit holes, reading real books, and gathering information not based in mainstream media is key to gaining knowledge and accepting truth. Willful ignorance, ignoring things, allows people to keep being immoral without feeling bad about it. So this is just the definition of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the discomfort a person feels when their behavior does not align with their values or beliefs, or what they're presented with doesn't align with their values or beliefs. Cognitive dissonance is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when a person holds two contradictory beliefs at the same time. When one learns new information that challenges a deeply held belief, for example, or acts in a way that seems to undercut a favorable self-image, that person may feel motivated to somehow resolve the negative feeling that results, to restore cognitive consonance. So they want to bring harmony into the way they feel. So they have one of two ways they can respond to bring that harmony. The response to it may range from ignoring the new information that conflicts with their beliefs, or they can change their behavior to eliminate the conflict. Unfortunately, I would say there's far more people that choose the former over the latter. And that is a big reason why we are in the shape we're in as a society. Moral relativism and selfish, ego-driven behavior. It's all about you. Moral relativism occurs when a person's morals are based not on the truth of right and wrong behavior, but on what is convenient. Their morals change based on convenience, the situation, societal norms, financial gain, and the like. This leads directly to spiritual degradation and in turn societal degradation. Selfish, ego-driven behavior pervades our society. I mean, it is bad right now. It is so bad. Me is the only focus for a lot of people. They don't think of outside of that. As long as I'm good, as long as my family's good, as long as my kids are good, then who cares about anybody else? It's not a concern as long as me and mine are good. That's the mindset of, I would probably say, easily the majority of the population. It is impossible, especially in this country. It is impossible to have a harmonious, productive, and free society if this is the mindset of the people within the society. I mean, and that's just logic. That's just logic. You cannot have a group of individuals that are all selfish, that are all ego-driven, that are all believe in moral relativism, and then think when they come together, though, all of a sudden they'll come together and you'll have a harmonious, loving, productive society. That doesn't make any sense. If the majority of the people, or even half the people in the society are like that, the society is going to be severely degraded and handicapped and destructive. It just follows logic. Moral relativism and rights. Now, this was a really powerful quote. If moral relativism is how we should live and there is no right or wrong, then by extension, humans do not have rights either, because there are no wrongs that can be done against them. You cannot believe that we all have basic human rights while also believing that there is no right or wrong. For beliefs about morality are the foundation of our experience within any particular societal structure. The government does not give you rights, nor does it take them away. Your beliefs are what do that. Governments simply reflect and enforce your beliefs and the beliefs of the collective unconscious. Government cannot give you something that is inherently yours, that you are born with. How can they give you that? They can't. That's impossible. How can they take it away? That's impossible. It is our belief in government. It is our belief in authority that allows them to do all of these things. If we stop believing in those things and we would stop participating in government, it would just completely fall apart. They would have no one. Once you stop the belief, the system will immediately collapse because there's no support. There's no foundation for it anymore. We are the foundation for the entire system with our beliefs. Materialism and consumerism. Materialism occurs when a person considers material possessions and physical comfort as more important than spiritual values. The desire to own fancy cars, brand name clothes, luxury amenities, expensive jewelry pervade almost every form of media we encounter. It pervades the marketing around us and the mindset of many people. When you become a slave to consumerism, you become very easy to control. Very easy to control because they can just threaten that if you manage to accumulate a lot of stuff, they can just threaten to take it away. You're going to listen to what we say, we're going to take that stuff away from you. Or if you haven't, accumulated the stuff yet and you're trying to, they could just say, well, we're not going to let you, reach that next level of financial success so you can buy all those things. So they're controlling you that way. If you don't do what we say, we're going to take away your ability to either have these things or acquire these things. With consumerism, consumerism has become an addiction for many people. And I have to say, this was something that I used to use to pacify myself. Oh, I'm feeling down. I'll just go buy some stuff off of Shein or Amazon. And so then I don't feel so much anxiety about what's going on around me. And instead of using that anxiety or the anger or the depression that you're feeling about what's going on around you to empower you to do something about it, you just kind of look for something artificial to make you feel better. And the high lasts it's very momentary, brief and shallow. So, but many people do it. So constantly buying things that they don't need or can afford is their way out. Many are seeking the artificial high shopping brings because they lack the inner peace and joy that real spiritual connection to nature and to the divine actually brings. Right livelihood. Right livelihood is an important and often overlooked part of a person's moral character. Needing money to pay the bills is not an excuse to harm another person. Never an excuse to harm another person. Ignorance of what is happening behind the scenes of your job is not an excuse either. It is your moral obligation to know the ramifications of your job duties, or you should not have that job if you don't know the moral ramifications of it. Everybody does need to, eat and have somewhere to live and, pay their utilities and all those things. But do you have a right to do that? Do you have a right to take care of your family at the expense of mine? That's not okay. That's immoral, and you are creating negative karma every time. Practicing right livelihood involves earning a living without causing harm to others, aligning with natural law, and promoting truth and freedom. This also leads to a higher quality of life and brings about positive change in society. Earning money through acts of wrong leads to negative karma. So again, you see all these ways I've talked about are things that we're doing, not things that the controllers are doing. It's things that we are doing as a society, as a people, to ourselves and to each other. So this is all ways that they are mitigating their own karma because we're doing all the dirty work. So here we are. Whose fault is it? If you are unhappy with the current state of the world and the internal and external conditions of your life, but do nothing about it, you are not a victim. You are a willing participant. Even if we are being manipulated, we still are responsible for our own actions and will suffer the karmic consequences as a result. As you can just look around at the world around us, at the society around us, we are suffering the karmic consequences. We are living in a terrible manifested reality, but we are the creators of it. So if you really want to know who's at fault, grab a mirror. What karma are you creating? The bigger issue is not what they are doing to us, but what they have convinced us to do to ourselves. You create your karma through your actions and deeds. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation on karma. Visit our website for more information, resources, and ways to connect. That is affirmlifedaily.com. Please follow us on social media at Affirm Life Daily on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Are there any questions on anything that I presented? Well, I appreciate you all listening. And this will be posted on my website, hopefully within the next couple of days. And I will be scheduling the next presentation sometime soon in the upcoming weeks. And I appreciate you caring enough to be present for this, because it's going to take everyone to actually see the changes that we all want to see. So have a wonderful evening, and thanks so much.